You are listening to Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast.
When your heart is aching and your world is shaking, don't give up. No, don't give up.
Hello and welcome to Oh My Health, There Is Hope, the podcast. I'm your host, Jana Short, and today I'm here with Donna Mazzola. Donna is a pharmacist who has always had a fascination with natural healing and preventative care. After obtaining a doctorate in pharmacy, Donna realized that medicine has a place in healing, but it's the balance between nutrition and medicine that impacts disease. This fascination became an obsession after a personal diagnosis with Hashimotos in 2015. Her disease pushed her to embark on a journey to seek answers and identify the root cause related to rise of autoimmune and other inflammatory chronic conditions. Donna is on a mission to educate the world on the healing powers of food and give meaning to the concept of food as medicine. She runs a blog, Dr.AutoimmuneGirl.com, to share reputable scientific information related to nutrition and health. Donna is also the author of the Immunity FoodFix, 100 superfoods and nutrition hacks to reverse inflammation, prevent illnesses, and boost your immunity. Donna, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here today.
So I absolutely love you because, you know, I am 100% believer that food isn't just to fill an empty hole in your gut, right? It is to nourish and heal and give the body what it needs to do what it has to do. So using food, thinking about it as more than that, like really it is totally fuel, is amazing. So I cannot wait till we get into that. But before we do any of that, we always ask our guests if they will share a story of hope with us, like your personal story of hope.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I'll start my story with when I was personally diagnosed with Hashimoto's. And, you know, previous to that, I always thought I was otherwise healthy. I lived what I thought was a healthy lifestyle, exercise. But as I look back to the life that I was living, I realized when we talk about food as medicine, I wasn't nourishing my body the way that I should. I was depleting my body of the nutrients it needed. I was eating processed, healthy foods as they would put them, things like that were sugar-free and fat-free and following fad diets. And it really, when my diagnosis hit, I went into a state of shock, fear, disappointment. It was almost like I went through the phases of grief because of it. But then I realized, what I learned in pharmacy school was just to take medication for the rest of my life. And that's how I would manage my thyroid condition and my autoimmune condition. And as I started researching and understanding more, I realized there was so much more to it. And that's what led me, as we talked about my bios, to go back to school and complement my pharmacy degree with that nutrition and functional medicine background. And I was simply doing it to help myself. I had no vision to what I would, but I wanted to be the expert for myself. And as I started learning, literally a week into my program, I was so fascinated with what I was learning that I thought I need to share this out with the world. And that's how I started Dr.AutoimmuneGirl. And I started it as I was in school. And every week that I would learn whatever I learned that was new, I would put a post out there. I would put a blog out there. And that page just grew organically. I realized I was helping people, empowering them to take control of their health, empowering them to ask the right questions, to recognize where they may have deficiencies, to realize it's not normal to not feel well. You should feel your best. And realizing what that means, you can't just blame everything on stress. There's more to it that's going on with our bodies. And really allowing people to understand how food really impacts your body negatively and positively, and how you can transform your health and live your best life, even if you have a chronic condition.
I love that story. And since you're a pharmacist, I want to definitely talk to you about pharmaceuticals. So people think because I'm holistic and I choose to try to not use prescription drugs that I don't like drugs. Are you kidding? I love pharmaceuticals. We were just talking right before we started that I had a health issue over the weekend, and they're like, I know you don't like to take medication, but there's a pill that will help. I'm like, give it to me. Absolutely. But the first thing I always do is I check, like, what can I do with my diet that might help me? And I think that people are missing the fact that pharmaceuticals and healthy choices and learning about what our body needs through foods, through meditation, through sleep, through so many other things, even hydration, like the half of the world is walking around dehydrated. And if they could just figure out what those were and married them together, you would have like the perfect little zone around you. It was hard for me to learn that. But when it comes to like putting those together, like, how do you do that? How did you do that in your mission?
Yeah, so I love that question because I think that we villainize medication. And I hate that it's either two schools of thought, conventional or holistic. And that's not the way it should be. And my mantra really is balancing nutrition and medicine. And you shouldn't feel ashamed because you need medication. I need my medication, right? I tell people that all the time. There's been way too much damage done to my thyroid gland for me not to take my hormones. If I don't take it, I feel awful. I've tried to wean myself off, didn't work. I realized then to myself, it's okay that I need to take this, but it's what I do from the other end that shifts the scale, right? And so these chronic illnesses are chronic. They're chronic for a reason. They're here to stay. Unfortunately, you know, as much as you maybe could put it into a remission, it's still there, the underlying condition. And so the goal really is to delay progression of disease, to try to delay the need to increase doses of your medication, maybe to even reduce the dose of medication. And how do you do that? You do that by increasing all those other holistic measures, food, like you said, hydration, sleep, movement, stress relief, meditation, yoga. I mean, those are the things that if we increase those, we can decrease the medicine side of it. And maybe you'll get off, maybe you'll be one of those people that can get off your medication, but maybe you won't. And that's perfectly okay. And that's what I try to stress so much is that don't be ashamed. Don't feel like you're a failure because you're on medication, especially if you're doing all the other things right. It's okay. We can do both and just create that balance between the two.
So I love that you said that, but I also want everyone to understand that don't just go off your medication because you're eating better, right?
Right.
Always wean yourself or go off medication with your doctor. So I did that exact same thing when I was sick. I literally had a box of drugs I was taking and it made me not feel myself. And I told them what my desire was. I really would like to get off all these medications. And first they told me it's not going to be possible. I said, can you work with me? Can I get tested on a regular basis? And fortunately for me, I take Lovenox. So I get tested regularly for blood thinning, you know, my blood thinning. And what happened was they started winging me off. And yeah, you're doing better. We can bring it down. And then it turned out that I was only on Lovenox, which is something I will never be able to go off of because of my blood clotting disorder. But having said that, I did it with my doctors and they were open to letting me try, letting me talk to a dietitian and letting me go through that process. And it wasn't a flip of a switch, right? It took me a year to get off of everything, but it was so worth it for me. So worth it. So don't go off she's not saying go off your medication and eat better. She's saying talk to your doctor, and with proper medication and diet and sleep and all the great things, you know, that you go start incorporating in your life, you may be able to start winging yourself to a lower dosage or even off.
Yeah, exactly. No, 100%. My point is it's okay to do both and don't think that you can only do one or the other. And we should be doing both. And with that, as you said, continuous monitoring to determine where we are in our healing journey. That's what's critical.
It is 100% critical. I know sometimes that's a little hard to do, but if you take the time to do it, it is so worth it. So I love that you are putting those two together. I want to talk a little bit about your book, the Immunity FoodFix. Like, I love that you're talking a lot about inflammation. And one of the things that people don't understand is inflammation is connected to every autoimmune disease there is. Like, that's what triggers it. That's why you have, why do I feel great one time and then like later I feel like crap again? I'm never getting well. It's really all connected to inflammation in the body and how that's affecting you. So can you tell us a little bit about your book and why inflammation is so important to get that under control?
Yeah. So the Immunity FoodFix really kind of gives you and starts with the baseline of the immune system. And like through the past couple of years, everything I've heard about people's understanding and misunderstanding of the immune system really led me to say, okay, we need to break this down and we need to level set everybody. Like, here's how the immune system works. Here are the major functions of the immune system, why it's there, and how inflammation is tied to that. Inflammation at the end of the day is a good thing. You want, right, an inflammatory response. So it's like your body detects something that's wrong, that shouldn't be there. I refer to it as an invader a lot of times in my book. And as a result of that recognition of an invader, your body turns on the immune system. Your body releases inflammatory cytokines. These are meant to fight, to kill, to remove that invader. And then the immune system should turn itself off. And that inflammation should diminish until the next time there's an invader. The problem that we have right now is that we are constantly exposing our bodies to these invaders through the toxins in our food, the pesticides that are being sprayed, the pollution in the air, the water supply that we have. I mean, just the skin products that we're putting on that are laced with chemicals. All of those things are foreign invaders to our body. They're not supposed to be there. They're not natural. They're not healthy. And therefore, they trigger this constant immune response. And as a result of this constant immune response, our immune system does not shut off, and we have a chronic inflammatory response. And so we're living in a state of inflammation at all times because of the foods, not just because of the foods we eat but because of the foods we don't eat as well, that actually can be anti-inflammatory. And so recognizing and understanding that, yes, chronic inflammation at the root is the cause of so many autoimmune diseases. That's why we're seeing this epidemic and rise in autoimmune diseases. But also think about cancer. That's kind of like the end game of chronic inflammation, is this development of cancer. 10% of cancers are due to genetics. 90% are typically due to our environment and what we do and how we turn on those genes to lead to this inflammatory response. This results in a cancer development. And so being able to shut off that inflammation and nourish our body with the nutrients that it needs at a cellular level, as well as these like phytonutrients and phytochemicals that are found in plants that actually work by reducing inflammation. That's the key to health. That's really, and I say it doesn't need to be that difficult. I mean, if we have, and that's really what I try to do in my book, is really give that basic understanding of the science of the immune system, of inflammation, of why it's out of control. And then through these 100 superfoods, each one is broken out into sections where I give you the science, and it's backed by 150 references. So it's all backed by the science. And then the fix that's a result of those foods. And it allows the reader to really create their own prescriptive diet that they want to follow through the foods that they love the most, but giving you the data that you need to be able to do that, as opposed to yet another fad diet that we should follow. It's not that hard. It's just a matter of eating whole foods in an abundance, and giving our body what it needs to be nourished.
I love that you're referencing to eating whole foods, because I literally went on plant-based eight months ago, right? And I thought that was super healthy for me, but I kind of got away from eating whole plant-based, right? And I would grab those things in the store that were plant-based, and I noticed I was having a ton of inflammation, a massive problem with arthritis that I have in my hands, and I couldn't figure it out until my daughter, who's a DNM, looked at the product. She was like, well, you know that this Beyond Beef, although it tastes great for you, it's full of sodium. And like when she was telling me all the things that were in the prepackaged products, I was like, no wonder I'm feeling like crud. And then when I went back to the whole plant foods and started creating what was more closer to the way it came, right, to me, that doesn't mean I do frozen, like I chop up stuff in season and freeze it so I have it all year round. But when they were prepackaged, there was stuff in them that was causing massive inflammation, but I thought I was eating well. And people are like, well, I'm all vegan. Well, so is an Oreo cookie. And if I had a diet of Oreo cookies, I probably wouldn't be very healthy. So sometimes health, when it says healthy, or when you think like you're labeling something, it isn't healthy at all for you.
Yeah, totally right. I mean, the processed foods or packaged foods, whether, like you said, whether they're quoted as healthy or vegan, or, now everybody's on this gluten-free is healthy, but like gluten-free packaged foods don't mean they're healthy, right? They're just like a different type of processed food, but they still contain those chemicals and those triggers that are going to turn on that inflammation in the body. And the beauty about whole foods, actually, what's really amazing, and we talk about a lot in the book, is that there's been studies that have been done on like components of a whole food supplement, right? And so we'll take a part of a plant and extract it and create a supplement as a result of it. But then some of those studies don't show the benefits like they do with studies that were people eating the whole plant. And there's a reason for that. And it's because the phytonutrients and the phytochemicals found in plants, the entire part of the plant, actually work together in synergy to create the benefits that they're meant to create. And those phytonutrients that are in plants are basically secondary metabolites to a plant. They're there to protect the plant while it's trying to grow and nourish itself. And so like it's a phytonutrient or chemical that's there to protect against insects or weather, whatever it may be. And as a result, when we eat that plant, we benefit from those phytochemicals that the plant was using to protect itself. We can then benefit and protect our bodies and nourish our bodies with it. And so it's fascinating what you can obtain from whole foods, and from the benefits that arise and come with whole food products. So I can't say enough about it, but I tell people, as you said, like, there's some of us need some convenience. And so my go-to is always to say like 80-20. If 80% of your shopping cart contains whole foods that are not packaged from the perimeter of the grocery store, and 20% is in a package that goes in your pantry, you're probably doing a good job. It's not to make this impossible, but recognize just the benefits of it. And when you start consuming those whole foods, really recognizing how you feel, because that's really going to be the testament of the benefits that you find there.
I feel like it's so confusing for us, and it's getting harder and harder for us to eat healthy. I remember I grew up on a dairy, and we had vegetables that we grew in our own garden, beef that we raised, milk literally straight from the cow. I remember it had a cheesecloth over it. We'd pour the milk out so that the cream was caught behind the cheesecloth, butter, like we ate all the things. And we weren't overweight, we weren't unhealthy. But if I had that diet right now, I went to the store and I got milk, I got butter, I got meat, I got veggies, I would not have the same effect. Like it's harder and harder for us to find out like what works for us. One of the things I definitely want to learn from you is maybe if you can share one or two of your superfood and nutrition hacks to help reverse inflammation, like maybe just one of them so everyone can go get the book and learn the rest.
Yeah, I think the kind of the biggest takeaway that I like to give in the book is number one, when we say eating, the go-to amount is to consume about 9 to 12 servings of plant-based foods. And when I say plant-based foods, immediately everybody thinks fruits and vegetables. But what's fascinating in the book, and it's broken out into these chapters, is your healthy oils are plant-based foods. Your nuts are plant-based foods. Seeds, which are, basically they're the most nutritious, right? Because that's what grows the entire plant. Consuming the seeds, that's plant-based food. Herbs that we eat are plant-based foods. So it's not just to say it's fruits and vegetables, but we really break it down into understanding the benefits of like roots, right, that are grown underground. Like what are the benefits as a result of eating that? What are the benefits of the oils, the nuts, the seeds, the herbs? There's so much more to it. And so, it sounds so daunting to say you need to eat 12 servings of plant-based foods, and people are like, how am I going to eat 12 servings of vegetables every single day? And I'm like, you're probably pretty close to it if you're eating an otherwise healthy diet. But if you really just kind of recognize and open up, you may be able to increase a couple more servings and gain those benefits. And the synergies of how those various plant-based foods work together is what's most fascinating that you'll find in the book.
I know one of the things I did when I went plant-based was I started writing about 30 minutes after I ate how I felt. Am I tired? Am I sluggish? Do I have energy? Am I like so full that I can't stand it? Because even if I ate the same amount of a healthier food and a not so healthy food, I feel overfull and bloated, right?
Mm.
Like, oh, I ate so much. So once I started writing that, I just started removing those things, which I realized then it's mostly plant-based foods that are making me feel good, and which
I
is
love
why I went
that.
plant-based. But it was all because I want to know how I felt like 30 minutes later. Do I feel like I need to lay down? Do I
Mhm.
feel like I don't know, like I'm overfull? Do I feel like, I need a lot of fluids because it was so full of sodium that I need, a lot of fluids. It was a weird thing to look back at, but I don't think we even realize that how we feel 30, 40 minutes after we eat is really connected to exactly what we ate, giving us that fuel or using that fuel that we already have. So that really helped me when I was learning what worked for my body and what didn't. So I love everything you're talking about, everything that you're doing. Tell us a little bit about Dr. Autoimmune Girl and what people can find there.
Yeah. So Dr. Autoimmune Girl is, as I said, it was a blog I started while I was in school to share reputable scientific information. I struggled when I was getting on the internet and Googling and I'm like, well, what's reputable and what's not? What can I trust and what can I not trust? So I thought to myself, you know what? I'm just going to become the trusted source. And so everything that I share is fact-based. It's not my opinion. I will share my personal journey, but nothing opinion. It's all backed by scientific studies. And I think that's truly important, and it brings that credibility because I want people to be able to trust it, and then to be able to take it to their providers so their providers can trust and believe in this other side of medicine, right? It's not just about the conventional side. We need both. And so it's almost like I'm empowering you to also educate your provider, empowering you to take control of your health. It's Dr. Autoimmune Girl, primarily, obviously, it started because of autoimmune disease, but really I'm sharing anything related to chronic disease, inflammation, sleep, how you can live your best life, and how you can just implement those nutritional, lifestyle changes, you know, to be healthier. We don't need to age and be unhealthy. Like we can, as we age, be even healthier and healthier as we implement, a lot of these lifestyle factors that I talk about on my page. But yes, I have my blog, my website, drautoimmunegirl.com, and you can find me on my handle on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest at Dr. Autoimmune Girl.
I love that you say as we age, because here I am in my 60s and I'm healthier now with all of my diagnoses than I was in my 30s and 40s when it should have been like my prime part of my life, right?
Mhm.
So I'm just making those changes and becoming aware and putting myself back in the driver's seat of my health and asking questions and educating myself. I feel like I'm a super, super big fan of blogging because it's education that goes out into the world, especially when it's scientific education and not just opinion. I love opinion. I love personal journeys. That's my thing, but it's worked for you, may not work for the masses, right? So I love when there's science behind it. If I went to my doctor and said, well, Dr. Autoimmune Girl said in her journey, he would like tune me completely out. But if I pulled it, I said like, Dr. Autoimmune Girl wrote about the scientific study on this. Would that work for me? He'll listen or she'll listen. So I love what
Exactly.
you're doing. And it really affects not just this generation. This is kind of when you blog, it's evergreen. It is out there for life. If in 10 years I type in, how do I fight inflammation with food? Donna, your blogs are going to pop up and it's going to change generation after generation. And hopefully my great grandkids are going to have a better life because we figured it out.
Yeah, exactly. No, and that's why I love it. I love that I can reach the masses all over the world and I know helping people everywhere. And that was the whole point of it. And I'm so glad I'm able to do that. I'm able to come on, like your podcast here and share and talk about that so that more people are aware, more people have the knowledge that I have. And I'm putting the work in simply to share it with the world.
I love it. Donna, how can everyone get in contact with you?
You can find me, like I said, on my website, drautoimmunegirl.com. Sign up for my monthly newsletter. Also, I share regularly on Instagram and Facebook, if that's the way, to learning. Follow me at Dr. Autoimmune Girl on either platform, and you'll join the healing journey.
Well, thank you so much. You guys, we're going to put all of Dr. Autoimmune Girl's links, all of the amazing stuff together in the show notes. You'll be able to connect with her really easily. I definitely would sign up for that newsletter and start checking out those blogs because you're going to be surprised what you find. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast. Make sure to visit Jana's website, bestholisticlife.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, or listen there, so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show. That'll help too. Let's change the world together, one health expert at a time. Looking forward to seeing you next time.